and I welcome some esteemed guests. So yes, very much thank you for being here. Wow, the room is full already. We thought that this would be kind of a quiet panel because it's the first one in the morning and we didn't think people would get up and we expected rain and whatever. So it's super great to see people here and thank you for coming in. And in order to try and build up some hype for this panel, I was like, oh, it's going to be the most degen panel. You have to come, you have to come. Like you see these guys. And I mean, degens maybe get a bit of a bad name. I don't know if you know too much about degens, but it's generally the ones who just kind of ape into projects and do stupid stuff. But in my view, they're actually the ones who set the stage for the future. They're the ones who build the things that we're using. And people talk to us and you say like, oh yeah, I'm minting runes and bridging to ICP and trading in Telegram and doing all this stuff. And people are like, you live in the future. And I'm like, maybe I live in the future, but these guys actually build the future and fund the future maybe. So yeah, I want to say thank you very much for being the sort of degens that actually pick up these tools, build them. You're not afraid of them, not afraid to actually lean into the things that kind of help us grow this futuristic, cool, decentralized world. So thank you very much for joining us before we ruin your reputation by saying. So maybe, yeah, maybe if you want to give you a bit of a brief introduction about yourselves, why, maybe starting with Odi, just who you are, why you're here today, basically on the stage. What is your relationship with Chain Fusion?
Hi, I'm Odi. I'm usually based in Asia, and I do a month in Europe every year just to see my friends. So I was brought into this rabbit hole because of my friend here in real life, I think. So she shared with me the CKBDC white paper. I got to my team. We spent 3 days looking at it, and then I told her we're building stuff on it. So a bit about myself before the project is I've been building in Web3 for full time for 5 years, mostly in the EVM world, borrowing, lending, cross chain, everything. Before that, built and sold a fintech company, and then before that on Wall Street. So yeah, that's a bit about me. Maybe about the project. We talk a bit about it. So what we're doing for ChainTX, we have a team, most of us in Asia. What we're trying to do is trying to replicate the banking system, but using only Bitcoin and purely on chain. So the idea here is that we have a fixed deposit product for Bitcoin, and then a borrow and lending that you can borrow Bitcoin using only Bitcoin related yield generating assets. So the idea is to build this on-chain monetary system where you can borrow and lend based on supply and demand of Bitcoins on your own. So for now, we have a closed loop testnet. So DM us on Twitter. We will send you the link and play. So we are, yeah, it's test BTC tokens, and yeah, give us feedback, and hopefully we can do a mainnet launch in a couple of months. Yep, thank you.
Thanks. I actually love bringing people like OD to especially this district in Zurich because there's all the bankers kind of walking past, looking at us. Sorry if you're in the room.
I have money there, so don't.
Yeah,
Hold on, I have money there.
But yeah, it's funny to see who are you? What are you doing? And it's some of them are kind of interested and they come in, and some of them are like, no, this is not happening. So it's cool that you're here. Thank you very much. And Tom?
Hi, I'm Tom Serres. Let's see, my background, founder first. I built my first company out of college. It was the largest political fundraising technology company in the United States. Powered about 70,000 political operations and sold that company in 2014. Right around the same time, I started getting into crypto, met Dominic and a lot of the early sort of crypto players, predominantly in the Ethereum ecosystem, and have been pretty much just focused on that since that era. Investing in a lot of great projects. Started professionally building an investment fund in 2018, 2019 with my partner, Bettina. And over the span of about 2.5 years, I think we did about 63 deals, which is kind of a lot. But I'm here today because I'm a huge fan of DFINITY. I think it's by far the most intelligent, creative, and worthwhile team to invest in. And so I'm here to support all of you and Dominic and Ricardo and Jan and everybody that has been working extraordinarily hard for the last 8 years. I don't know. It's been a while. So yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Tom.
They've been working hard all their lives. It's several years, several decades of hard work. And actually, I think Dom often uses the quote that it's 1,000 man years of R&D work that goes into this. So yeah, It's more than 8 years, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, and Enzo.
Hi everyone, my name is Enzo, and I'm part of the 2 people team that's building Tala DAO, which is the first ever Bitcoin-backed stablecoin any chain, and also part of the team that's building liquid staking on the IC with Water Neuron, which is one of the first few projects of liquid staking on the IC, which is going to be completely decentralized. My story and our story, I met my co-founder at DFINITY. We're both engineers here, and we're among the youngest pool of engineers at DFINITY, as it's a very tough team to get into. We were very impressed by like the technical talent, and we learned a ton. We really learned like the capacity of the network, how to leverage it, how to do like the perfect canisters, how to sell the project, what is unique about it. And we started getting a bit pissed off to see people repeating projects that was on other chains, and we wanted to go out there and build stuff that no other chains can do and really showcase what the IC is really capable of. And so that's our goal right now. We're starting to kickstart the DeFi on the IC, which we believe will bring mass consumers from other chains onto this one, because I think people need a reason to integrate another chain, and that might lead us into chain fusion, I think, perfectly.
Very nice, Enzo. It's like you planned this. And this is why I was saying, like, I mean, maybe one thing about Chain Fusion and DFINITY and Web3 in general is that I think it brings like a nice sort of mix of people together. So I think you can see like there's a kind of mix of experiences, like of like experience in life and in career and age, and also between engineering, investing, building, selling, whatever. And also like geographically. So we have like Asian representation, the US representation, and the European. So I think it's quite cool. But yeah, like Enzo is one of the kind of youngest engineers, as you self-proclaim. But I think you do a great job at like getting the picture and explaining to us like how the world should be. So and yeah, you always speak very well. So thank you for like linking it back exactly to my next question. So yeah, the next question was basically a bit like exactly why we need chain fusion. So like we have a blockchain that gives kind of a lot of features and kind of can solve a lot of the world problems and things like this. And there are other ecosystems out there, and we kind of start now building these links across to the other ecosystems as cryptographers, like the most secure way and like in a fast way, an efficient way, and whatever. And so we're kind of quite obsessed with the tech. And as I said, like 1,000 years of R&D, whatever. But at the same time, maybe we don't stop enough to think, actually, why? Like, why are we doing this? And do we actually need to do this? So maybe we go backwards along now, since Enzo, you you brought up the question, like, why do we need chain fusion? And does the industry need chain fusion?
Yeah, I think it's a bit more like complex. It's like, why do we need chain fusion? It's like, I see all the different ecosystems as like different countries, right? Or different continents. Chain fusion in a way is like this digital visa, which can allow you to go from one country to the next very easily. And we need like people to come into our country to build it, like Singapore did with skilled immigrants, like Switzerland is doing with like all those nationalities in Zurich. And that's what we want to do. We want to showcase to the people like, come build with us because we have those cool things which don't exist anywhere else. And I don't know, the analogy I use a lot, or like the metaphor, is how to bring people here to showcase what we have. Is like, I didn't come to Switzerland for the food or the weather, clearly. I came here to make money, that very clear. But then when I arrived here, I wanted to stay because there were all the other cool things that didn't really exist in France, in the UK. Like, I don't have to wait 6 months for an MRI scan. I can just walk up at Lieberg in 5 minutes and be lost in the woods. All of those cool little things that makes your quality of life so enjoyable and makes you want to stay. And it's the same on the IC. Once someone comes here, realize, well, I don't need an oracle, you know? I don't need to pay for my gas fees. I can use something that's actually on chain. I can use a DAO system that actually works and is democratic. I don't have this issue with like locked tokens and all. There is already neurons. Like all of those small quality of life, but which brought together can create a small countries that people want to move to. And I think that's the goal with Chain Fusion.
Very nice. Thank you.
Thanks.
So The guy from the city of Zurich, like the innovation guy from the city of Zurich, will be here later, and I think he'll be thrilled to talk to you. It's like ICP is basically the Switzerland of Web3. Like it's but that's great. I mean, you frame it very nicely. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Tom?
So I've been in this space for kind of a long time, had an ability to kind of see a number of different ecosystems grow from the ground up. We were early investors in Polkadot, Near, Flow, DFINITY, Luxo Network. We were very early into Ethereum as well too, which is how I met all those people as well too, back when they were all working on the same project, frankly. And so, as I've kind of evolved through the space, I actually went back in time and looked at the origins and the history of the internet itself, right? And if you go back to the early days of the internet, actually we had many different kinds of internets, right? IBM had an internet as well too, right? And so everybody was in this kind of, they call it, in fact, if you go to the San Jose, to the History of Computer Science Museum, they actually have an entire exhibit dedicated to what they call the protocol wars. And I actually think that that's where we are today, right? I think we're in the middle of a really massive global protocol war where there's lots of different standards, lots of competing different standards. And in the short run, it harms entrepreneurs, it harms consumers, it makes it very difficult to compose across networks, it makes it very difficult to exchange and move assets. And when I look at what DFINITY in particular has built, I tell people all the time, right? This is alien technology, right? One of the reasons I love Dom so much is I like, this dude can see the freaking future, right? Like he sees things far beyond, pretty much any other crypto founder in the space, which is why I really appreciate his foresight. And he's built out all this incredible technology, right? That, for example, the prevailing theory back in the day was, oh, you'll never store data on chain. It'll always be stored off chain. Actually, that's wrong, right? Actually, data provenance is actually really important. In fact, it'll be increasingly important as we move into decentralized AI. When you have autonomous agents that need to make decisions, instead of going through a human intermediary to get that provenance check, it can literally go back to a digital birth certificate to a particular piece of data and make decisions on its own, which is what we want it to do, right? That's, I think, the ideal goal. And so I think in the short run, when you're looking at all these different nation states, right, effectively, you need some kind of way to cross-coordinate, cross-communicate, share assets, move assets, as we evolve through this era of the internet where we're engaged in this protocol war period. And so I think it's a really good thing to be able to bring a lot of the foresight that DFINITY has achieved over the 1,000 hours of R&D that has gone into it, to bring those features to other protocols and vice versa, to really help entrepreneurs and consumers get the Web3 experience that we all like hope and dream about every single day.
Nice. Thanks very much. Yeah. So there's the notion developing about network states, so that these, yeah. But anyway, Odi, how do you feel?
I think I see it from a more philosophical perspective on chain fusion. I think if you look at the life cycle of technology advancement, it's always been bundling and unbundling of existing infrastructure or players. So if you look at when the first internet first came out, we unbundled the newspaper and the media, right? People can start a blog and send me information. Then we had Facebook, Google came in and bundled up and become gatekeepers, right? That was the second phase. Then the third phase now that we have is our blockchain layer 1, layer 2 for meme coins, for SocialFi, for DeFi, and then they're now separated, right? I think where we are at chain fusion is rebundling that back again, but keeping the self-sovereignty of blockchain. So I think if you look at that from like trends, chain fusion is definitely starting the next trend. So whether it's DFINITY or not, I think we have an advantage by being the first player. So I'm quite bullish about this. So yeah.
That's cool. It's also a nice way to look at it. I like the philosophical view. And it's actually not something that I've heard before, actually, this bundling, unbundling.
History repeats itself all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Very cool. Thanks a lot for that. And so maybe I am going to abuse my position here a bit and like get you to do my work for me. So there's like, because I sort of lead a lot of the chain fusion activities here at DFINITY, and I try to come up with arguments for like why this is needed and what we're doing and this kind of stuff. And one of the things that people ask me, and I don't really have a clear answer to, maybe you can help, is like, I talk a lot about the how this is done, again, coming from the research perspective, and like, okay, scalability, yeah, bridging things, moving assets around, like these network states, we need to link them. And people are like, but like, really? Like, does Bitcoin actually need computation? Like, aren't the L2 scaling ETH? Like, do you really need to go in there? Like Solana meme coins, like, is this sustainable? Like, why are there so many people building like such big tech just to trade meme coins? Like, do you think this will last? Do you think like Bitcoin's going to become the compute layer? Like now that we have this, what is ICP's role in this? So like, I guess the question is, do each of the ecosystems or the nations in this sort of new internet have their own specialities? Like, is it set in stone yet? Like, will the kind of main uses that they're used for now be the things that they're used for in 10 years? This kind of thing. What do you think? This is something I don't really have an answer for. Maybe we start with Tom this time.
Good questions. I wish I had a crystal ball.
Yeah.
Buy? Yeah, right. What's that?
What do we buy today?
What would we buy today?
Yeah, what token do we buy today?
ICP. There you go. I actually think definitely buy ICP. I actually think meme coins are a good thing, despite the fact that they get a bad rap. I think it brings a category of users to Web3 that wouldn't inherently engage in Web3. Same with NFTs. NFTs brought a whole massive community of people that never would have touched crypto had it not been for the fact that, oh, it's art, right? And now you've got this whole new creative economy coming into crypto, which I think is a good thing. All those NFTs might be completely worthless at this point, but I think that next gen NFTs are going to be way cooler, more intelligent, and have true digital provenance, which is critical. What was the other? It was like meme coins and
just generally, like, do you think each blockchain kind of has found its niche, like Bitcoin as a store of value, ETH as some sort of secure computation, Solana for meme coins,
yeah.
ICP for linking things? Like,
Yeah.
is this how it's going to play out?
I don't think so. I think Bitcoin will always be here. I think it's a really great, it's the reserve asset of the internet. I think that will always be true. I don't know about Ethereum. It's a good question. I think they're a contender for sure. I think the layer 2, I'm very skeptical of most layer 2s. I'm very critical in my analysis of them. Is that a feature of the mainnet, or is that legitimately computation that needs to be offloaded? For example, the one layer 2 investment I did do in Ethereum was LivePeer, which I certainly, and I think for quite a long time, encoding video and different things like that has such high computational requirements that doing that on a layer 2 is probably better, and then settling that state back to the mainnet is actually a good thing. But there's not a lot of other layer 2s that really deserve to be layer 2s, right? Even like a ZK layer 2, like is that really necessary, right? Or could we actually have that same capability on the mainnet? I don't know. I don't think so. We talked a lot about back in the day. I remember I did a podcast interview with Jutta Steiner, who was the co-founder of Polkadot back in the day. And we had a whole podcast episode called Digital Nation States. And because that was also the prevailing theory too. And then I remember one time Dom was talking a lot about, and this was years and years ago, about DFINITY. And he talked about DFINITY and subnets. I do think you'll have like a mainnet and subnets, and there will be certain kinds of activities and apps or categories of apps that will run on a subnet. that don't necessarily need to run on a mainnet, even though maybe that's a multi-chain world, but I don't know, it's a little bit different in my mind. It's, yeah, it's just different. But like he gave the example of, well, the United States of America could run a subnet, right? And you could have a digital USA passport. And then when you want to go, say, do your, DMV or any other kind like taxes or something like that, you could have this, digital USA passport that allows you to access certain categories of applications running on that subnet. And that makes a lot of sense to me, actually. But ultimately, I think we'll probably end up in a scenario where we'll have one mainnet for finality. Because ultimately, I think that drives high degrees of composability. Because when you set aside all the meme coins and NFTs and all this stuff, this is really about universal standards and using those universal standards to drive high degrees of composability so that when you build something and you build something and you build something, I can borrow all three of them, stick them together and build something entirely new.
Yeah.
And that's the magic, right? And you see that at a lot of tech companies, but they're within the walls of Facebook or within the walls of Google. And there's lots and lots of composability in Facebook, right? The different teams are sharing different components and stuff like that as they're building out app layer functionality. To see that on a global scale, I think you're going to achieve much faster innovation cycles so that people will be building apps faster. You'll achieve scalability more quickly. And I think that really only happens when you have one mainnet with finality. That doesn't necessarily mean you won't have subcategories of applications or restricted permissioned environments and things like that, but that may occur more on a subnet scenario.
Nice. Okay.
But
Yeah. I mean, maybe this is a bit of a conversation then about multi-ecosystem versus single ecosystem with maybe multiple chains and things like this.
yeah,
Cool.
I think they try to collaborate and prove like different points, right? Bitcoin is like the story of aviation. Bitcoin proved that it's possible to fly, okay? And people thought it was like, well, that physicists back then were like, you can never fly. Birds do it. They're so small. You're a human. You would need wings so long. They would cover an entire city, like all these kind of things. And Bitcoin came and did it. They were like, actually, you know what? We can actually do it. But that's it. No more. No mass. We cannot code on it. You cannot do anything. That Ethereum came was like, okay, you can code on it, but not data. You need to like hold up a bit. And still, not everything can be on chain. And who is this guy anyway? Can you really trust him? And then I think that's where ICP comes in. It's like if Bitcoin is the plane, I like to believe ICP is like the rockets. And the goal of a rocket, no, I truly mean it. Like rockets enabled the man to go on the moon, like, yeah, that's cool, I know. But what they really enabled is like deploy satellites that have GPS and everyone now relies on it. And I think you can build core essential services on the IC by this like purely democratic, fully on-chain value. And those become core parts of a society from then on. And that's a bit of like a wild bet, but it could theoretically happen. And I think we need to look at it in that sense that everyone relies on GPS. It doesn't matter what you do, what kind of transportation you use. And it would be the same, I think, for different chains. Everyone would rely on some components of the IC because that's what the IC does really well. And you need to push that thing forward. Like, for instance, for the stablecoin, what we're trying to do is like, there's no governance token. It's controlled by the NNS, which is, for those who don't know, the ICP DAO. Okay? So the code is out there. I cannot change it today if I wanted to. I do not have enough voting power. Nothing can be done. The community needs to understand. And it's fully integrating with Bitcoin in a way that really makes it so that you don't need to trust us. I don't want you to trust me. I don't want you to trust the people working in this building, and you shouldn't have to. This notion of trust is like very old. You should have like this trustless layer of like, we can do business even though we're enemies. And that's the whole point of business. And as much as like, as the ecosystem grows older and older, I think this like maturity of not having to trust the other party to do those kind of transactions will come more into play as like we evolve to like a truly democratic system.
Very nice. Yeah, I love this idea of trust and like moving trust around. So in cryptography generally, it's about where are your keys and who owns your keys. And when end-to-end cryptography came, it was like, okay, my key is on my device. So if I use a messaging app and whatever government comes and wants to decrypt something, like Signal was always the example that we're like, we can't. It's not that we won't give you the keys, we can't. And like, so I love when you say, like, I can't update the code. I can't rug you. Like, the code is there. So you're kind of, yeah, shifting the trust not from the company to the user, but from the company to the network, basically. And this is something that this is the message that I try to give with Chain Fusion. It's like, look, the network's there, the cryptography's there, the security's there. Use that and focus on actually building your app on top of this. Like, so very cool.
But I think it's hard for people to imagine from this, because the way nodes are run on the IC is widely different than other networks. It's not a proof of stake. Once you plug a server in, you relinquish control. Everything that updates on that server is decided. Software update, people vote for it. You want to decommission your server, people vote for it. And this like a kind of like everything happens democratically is crazy. The the network gets updated once a week. It has pushed 10,000 updates since 3 years ago. By comparison, the largest second DAO that's not on the IC network, so that's the fourth DAO, that's Arbitrum DAO, has only had 500 proposals. Every week, there's more than 50 commits being pushed by engineers throughout this building. Every week, 2 different OS images get built from scratch for the network. The pace at which innovation accelerates on this chain because of democracy is unseen. And I think it's really hard to grasp this and to put this into perspective, but this allows things like Chain Fusion to exist. And this will allow, I think, many more opportunities in the long run, because now, like, all that has been done is proving that this can be done. It hasn't been optimized yet. Wait until packets get smaller, messages come back faster, then we can reach scales that, like traditional web services, and then you truly don't have to choose between AWS and the IC. You can, like, directly go for us. That's the goal, I think.
Cool. Nice. OD?
I think we're running out of time. You want to skip to the next one? I think you should be like the spokesperson for DFINITY.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, like I was trying, but then he left to go and build Taller with Leo, and it's like
Better deal.
No, I think it's good that he builds Taller. It's much needed. So anyway, yeah, we don't have so much time left, but I think for the last, I just wanted to take a quick look to the future. So like, what are you most hopeful for in the future for Chain Fusion, basically? And maybe we start.
I think my hope for I think it's more like the entire space, right? Like this year we had all this ETF and all this bankers coming to our space. I think what I hope to see the next year or so is us in the space building crypto native protocols or projects. Talk about like identity, finance, and and all that. And yeah, hopefully something that's independent of the old world. That's not just for DFINITY, but I think the entire space. And hopefully can work together with other system as well. That's my hope.
So you're hopeful the new world exists and is realizable?
I think we'll win.
Okay, me too. Let's go.
I'm pretty bullish on more open AI standards. So decentralization of the things that like ChatGPT are doing. I think that kind of stuff should be more of a public good. I should be able to be a token holder of some sorts in those kinds of things, as opposed to it being sort of stuck within a walled garden called OpenAI. So that's, I think, going to be some really cool and interesting innovations that I think are going to come out over the course of the next year. There's been a lot of talk about DPIN as well too, which is a new term for me, but we were investing in open hardware concepts years and years ago. We did a project called Foundation Devices about 4 or 5 years ago that was very focused on decentralization of open hardware standards. I think that stuff will start to get really interesting. And then I'd say the other area that I've been personally thinking a lot about, only because I'm getting ready to go build my next fund, is thinking about investment DAOs and being a little bit more aggressive. And I built the fund the first time and it was very traditional and interesting. And now I'm like, how do I be a little bit more crypto native and go after something more like an investment DAO? So I'm diving into that.
Very nice. Yeah, DAOs, I think, maybe didn't get enough mention on the panel today. But Enzo, we have 12 seconds left. What is
Very
your
quick.
best pitch? Elevator pitches.
No,
to
my
one
hope
minute.
is fairly quick. I want to use projects that I don't know are using blockchains, because truly I don't care. I want to use projects that use blockchains because they actually solve something, a need they have. So I don't want people to say built on the IC. That's bullshit. I want to have them, you building something and me not knowing ever, but them leveraging the IC for what it is. I'm not using Netflix because it's on AWS. No, I'm using it because I've got access to loads of videos super fast. The same needs to happen here. And once we can show this and people use dApps without knowing it's dApps, then you've got the product market fit.
Very nice. Well.